Never take what you have for granted. Never take the people you have for granted. Never take the experiences you have for granted. And never take the present moment for granted. The moment you're in right now, a lot of us take it for granted. We take it for granted by thinking too much about the future, thinking too much about our past mistakes, and ruining the moment within time, right? And I think you know this, just like I do. So you need to learn to stop taking things for granted. Now, you might ask, well, how exactly do you go on about that? And I think it's really about just focusing on the present moment. Focus really on just what you're doing currently. Yes, it's great to think about the future. Sometimes it's good to think about the past. You have memories for a reason. But I think the past has a lot more negatives, because usually when people are thinking about the past, you either got the really, really good, like the memories you experienced, and that's what you're thinking about, or you think about things you wish you would have done differently, right? And that turns into regret. But thinking too much about these things, and even thinking about the negative experiences in your past, can be a good thing, in a sense. You just can't overdo it. You can't, treat yourself poorly because you made a mistake. You learn from your mistakes. It's when you don't learn from your mistakes was when you start seeing a lot of problems. But anyways, focus more on what is happening around you. What are you doing in the moment? The people you're around. Really, that is a big one that I think a lot of people take for granted. Your mom and dad, your brother, your sister, family, uncle, aunts, cousins, friends, girlfriends, wives, all of that. People, when they're around somebody for so long, they tend to start taking their time for granted. And I think when you understand that you have a real friend or a real wife or a real husband or just real family, it's good to understand to not take their time for granted, because you really never know when somebody is going to be gone the next day. And that sounds kind of, out there. Like, it sounds kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Dramatic. It sounds kind of dramatic, right? Everybody says that. Everybody's like, you never know when it's your last time. And the truth is, you don't. Now, does that mean you need to go throughout life worrying about it every second of the day? No. I don't believe that. It's just things happen all the time, unexpectedly too. So when you learn to appreciate someone's time, when eventually they do move on to the next life, whether you believe in that or not, you can at least you will never have the regret that you took their time for granted, because every second you spent with them was much appreciated, right? You cherished that. You created memories. And I think another big one that we take for granted is opportunities for things. I don't know if you watched my last video about fear of relationships, but currently going through a little bit of like a swerve, it's just a weird scenario, a scary scenario. I think in this sense, I'd be taking my opportunity for granted, pushing it back too much, I'll do it here, I'll do it then, when in reality, if I did it as soon as possible, if I just talked to her about how I truly felt, all of this weight on my shoulders would be lifted off of me, right? And the same goes for like any type of scenario like that, whether it's a girl, a guy, a friend, a girlfriend, or whatever. It's good to get that weight off your shoulders. And I think men have a big problem with this, because they feel like it makes them feel like less of a man. I know I get that feeling sometimes. But I think part of it's because men or women, I think there are a lot of people out there that don't say how they feel because they're worried it's going to ruin someone's day, which I know that's how I feel. I keep a lot of things to myself, and most time people will never be able to tell I have a problem going on. And that's the thing. Everybody's heard that you never know what someone's going through, and it's so true because if you talk to me every day, you would never be able to guess I had stuff going on in the background. You would think it was normal. But yeah, in that sense, I would be taking that opportunity for granted. And now that I finally understood what I was doing, now I actually plan on acting on what I said I was going to do. Once I'm presented that opportunity again, I will explain, you know. When somebody asks how you are or how are you, and you just give them the same answer, good. Maybe one of these times, if you're really not feeling good or you're feeling a certain way, then maybe it's time to finally open up a little bit. You drive yourself crazy from holding in all these emotions and everything that it starts to ruin your quality of life, and that's definitely what it's doing for me right now. I'm ruining my own quality of life by just not attacking the problem. I could talk to my parents about my issues all day. I could talk to my parents, I could talk to my friends, I could talk to coworkers all day about my problems, but if I never really face the problem and I never tell how I feel to the person that should know the most, that weight will never ever be lifted off my shoulders. And I think honestly why I feel this way is because I'm afraid of the response, even though there has been no negative signs. And that's how a lot of people are. They're afraid of the response, even if there is no negative signs. So, I mean, you just can't take the time you have currently for granted. Doesn't matter what situation you're in, if it's really bad, if you're whatever. It could be the best moments that you're in, it could be the most negative moments you're in, but never take it for granted. It's better to always attack the problem as soon as possible rather than waiting like me and letting it kind of just eat away at you until finally people talk sense into you and then you plan on doing the thing you want to do, right? Because I always thought, the moment I started getting this like weird feeling, right? I always thought I could just get away with it by saying like one thing, two thing here and there, right? Instead of actually just telling her how I felt. It's so scary that you're gonna get an answer that you don't exactly want, or that they're gonna leave you, or they're gonna think of you differently, or they're gonna think, for my case, think I'm a less of a man, or whatever it is. And you just can't go at life that way. You just gotta attack your problems. Really, attack your problems. Just don't take your time for granted. Don't take the people you have around for granted. Don't take the opportunities you have for granted, whether it's a financial opportunity or maybe it's a travel opportunity. Maybe you have a chance to travel somewhere you've always wanted to go. And then you make every excuse in the book not to go. But in reality, you should. I've heard those stories too, where people are like, I really wish I would have quit my job at the time and just took a trip to Japan, or took a trip to China, or Miami, or whatever, Hawaii. You know, there's so many places that people want to be. I mean, you hear those stories all the time. I really wish I would have just done it at that time because it could have changed my life. It's crazy how much just genuine experiences can actually change the trajectory of your life. It changes how you think, right? So I'm just saying, just do not take your time for granted. Everybody says it, but nobody actually pays attention and focuses on what they're doing, right? We're all guilty of it. We all take things for granted all the time. You take things for granted, I take things for granted. Parents take things for granted. But if you can lessen that and start appreciating what's right in front of you now, imagine what you could appreciate when you actually have the thing you've always wanted. For me, if I can appreciate these hard times now, imagine how much I could appreciate when the thing gets fixed. My time would be so much better. So if I already appreciate what's going on right now, I'll appreciate the positive thing even more. I can give you another example. If maybe your hometown isn't really for you and you really want to move out of it when you get older, or maybe you're at the age where you want to move out, if you can learn to appreciate your hometown now, the town you don't really necessarily like being in, imagine how much you could appreciate the town or city that you want to live in even more. Like, it sounds kind of dumb, it sounds kind of like cliche or corny in a sense, but it's true. If you can appreciate the negative things, imagine how much you could appreciate the positives. So much more. It's the same thing with people, it's the same thing with opportunities, everything. If you can appreciate the bad moments with people, imagine how much you can appreciate the very positive moments with people. If you can appreciate negative people, imagine how much you can appreciate positive people. You know, and the list goes on and on and on. Appreciate what's in front of you. Never take things for granted. Always keep an open mind. Never take opportunities for granted. Never take people, ideas, all that. Never take it for granted, and you'll never have regret. You'll never have regret if you went your whole life never taking the things you have for granted. Never taking anything. Opportunities, doesn't matter what. You would never have regret because you never took anything for granted. So how would you have regret? You always act on the things you want to do. You're in the position you want to be in. And that's what it is. And some people don't even realize that this is like one of the main reasons why it's so hard for them to get out of their space that they're in. Because they take things for granted too much. They're comfortable, so they take it for granted. So they always stay comfortable, never get out of their zone at all. So they stay in this zone forever. But if you didn't take it for granted, then you would attack the opportunity to finally break out of that comfort zone and go live and see the world a little bit, right? The world is scary, but it's a very beautiful place. A lot of great things happen, or a lot of bad things happen in the world. But just appreciate it, you know? I mean, that's really not, I mean, I repeat myself like 50 times, but I mean, that's really it. Everybody says it, but start acting on it. Don't take what's in front of you for granted. Don't take future opportunities for granted. Don't take the past for granted. Never take anything for granted. And I think that you'll start to appreciate life a lot more, and you'll start to appreciate the present moment. Kind of sentimental, but you know, whatever. But that's really it. Never take anything for granted. Live your life. Be positive, even when the times are negative. I'm in a negative space right now, but if I do what I'm supposed to do, put my ego to the side, put the whole less of a man thing aside, all that, and just tell the truth, I can guarantee I will have a huge weight off my shoulders. Yes, there's a lot to worry about. I'll worry about her response, I'll worry about this or that, but at least I can get the truth off, and it also tells me what kind of person she is in return, based on how she reacts to it. And because I think she's a good person, I don't think I have anything to lose. So that's why it's stupid for me not to say anything. If anything, I'm holding us back. So that's my fault. I took the opportunity for granted, I took the time for granted, and now I'm in this situation. So it's time to get myself out. Learn from me, learn from others' mistakes, learn from your own, and you'll be in a much better place. But that's really it. Never take what's in front of you for granted. Doesn't matter what it is in life, positive, negative, doesn't matter. Live by that, and always stay positive. But as always, life isn't too short to make a change.